Hello and welcome to part 2 of half bath to full bath. I'm How To Bob, and in this part we're going to start off in the kitchen, and I'm going to draw a line straight down here. We're going to try to cut the line right at the soffit and remove this part of the wall so we have a nice sight line from here to the front of the house. So I'm going to run my level all the way down from the soffit, get it plumb, draw a line, and then I'm going to use my oscillating tool and cut the drywall so I get a nice clean line right where I want my wall to end. So I just run my oscillating tool all the way up to the ceiling, and then across the ceiling as well, and this will give me a nice clean edge when I go to remove the drywall. Now I've got my edges cut. I'm going to take a hammer and just hammer a hole in there and start ripping the drywall out, hoping that a nice big chunk will come out. And as I get down towards the countertop, I realized I did not cut the drywall down by the countertop. I'm going to save the countertop and cabinet for last, so I'll be taking that out later, but for now I'll just cut the drywall and rip that off there. And I see a little bit of dust in between the wall there, and that indicates to me that, yep, there it is. This is a return vent, so we'll have to deal with that a little bit later. I'm going to go over to the door now and remove the door. I took the casing off yesterday, so I'm going to pry the door out a little bit, just enough so that I can slide the reciprocating saw in there. I've got a metal blade on my reciprocating saw, and I'm going to run it up and down the sides of the jamb and cut all the nails that are holding the door jamb in place. It cuts through fairly easy with the metal blade. Anywhere you see a shim is where I'm going to be cutting the nails. Okay, that takes care of all the nails on this side. So I'm going to run the reciprocating saw down the other side of the door jamb and cut all the nails on that side. Let me close the door here. Might make it a little easier to remove. And the door is now out of the way. I'll set this off to the side and we'll continue demolition. So there's a lot of 2x4s here that we got to get rid of, and I'm going to take some of the drywall off around the header of the door panel here. So again, I'm going to use the oscillating tool, and I'm going to cut around the ceiling and all the corners. That way it'll come off nice and clean. Get the pry bar behind there, and I can pull this piece off in one big piece here. Next, I'm going to remove the drywall around the top of the void and in front of the closet. That's where I just cut that area out. And then I'm going to go inside the closet here and use the utility knife. You don't always have to use the oscillating tool. Utility knife works quite well, but I do like the oscillating tool just because it's a really handy little tool to have. So that I've got the closet cut on the inside, so I can go on the outside and just push the drywall through to the inside. And it should swing right out in one big piece, and then I can start pulling the drywall off the rest of the closet area. I noticed a little build down area in the void, and I'm kind of curious to see what's in there. So it looks like there is a vent here, and that vent looks like it goes to the bathroom right above the bathroom that I'm working on. So that'll have to be dealt with in the future too. I'll have to move that around. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to remove some more 2x4s. This one's in there pretty good. I'll use a crowbar for it. Pry it out of there until I get the nails loose. And then I can just rip it out of there. There we go. Usually when one side is taken out, the other side will come right along. So for the top and bottom, I can use a reciprocating saw with a metal blade, same one I used to take the door out, and I'm going to cut the nails. Usually they're nailed from the top plate or the bottom plate, and on the corners, sometimes there's nails from the side to the side, just to add a little extra strength. And once one side's cut, the top or the bottom, the other side will pull right out. So I can get my pry bar in there, and you can see I can just pull this right out of the bottom, and I'll just continue to go around and cut all the nails on the top or the bottom, whichever one's easier to get to at the time. And then I'll start prying out the studs that are surrounding the old closet. Everything's got to go because I got to get this wall out of the way to move forward. So I'm just going to keep cutting away at all the nails and removing the studs and drywall that's all left. See, there's some electrical running through the top header of the door. I'll have to cut those out. Once I get them loose, I can get a different blade and cut the wood to get those out of the way, get the wire out of the way. Now I'm going to go inside the bathroom and remove the drywall above the door. So I'll cut that. And this time I'll use the utility knife and just cut along the perimeter, and I should be able to pull this off fairly easy. There it is. Comes right off. And then I can continue to dismantle the wall. There's some wires that are held on by straps, so I need to pry those loose before I remove the 2x4s. And I'll just leave this hang loose for a little bit just to get it out of the way, and then continue cutting nails so I can remove all the 2x4s. And you notice that the back wall is made out of 2x6s. That's good for running plumbing through the wall. It gives a little extra room for the larger pipes, especially in a 2-story. So I can pop the 2x4s out of the way here, and the 2x6s can go as well. And once I get all of the 2x4s out, I can pop my bottom plate out. Get this one out of the way here, and there we go. I can pop the bottom plate out now. And that comes right off with the pry bar. And I've got more wires here to deal with. I'm going to have to rerun a lot of this electrical around. You can see that this is run through the studs as well, so I'm going to start cutting this electrical out of there so I can just cut a notch in the 2x4 here, and then slide the 2x4 out from around the electrical. And I'll have to do that carefully with all the other wires as well. And I'm going to remove the top plate because there's going to be a new one in a new location, and also have to remove the build down because that's going away as well. Okay, it's time to remove some more drywall inside the closet again. One big piece here. Let's see if I can get the whole thing off in one full sheet. Looks like it's pretty much one full sheet here. It looks like there's some insulation in between this interior wall. Not quite sure what that's all about. I can take that out of there and get that out of the way because we'll need to have access to that. And I'll continue removing the rest of the drywall here inside the closet. Okay, now that I have all the drywall removed from the inside of the closet, I'm going to remove the drywall from the outside of the closet. This wall is going to be done away with just to give an open floor plan. And I can cut the outside, and then I'll go on the inside and kick it and start prying it out from the outside. And unfortunately, it's not coming off in big pieces. This one's on there pretty good, so I'll just have to chip away at it one little piece at a time until I get up to the top here. And it's looking like it's going to come off nice and clean up against the ceiling. So now I've got more studs that I have to cut. Cut the nails on all the studs. The corner has quite a few nails, and I'll just cut all the way through the corner bead and everything, and then I can pull this whole big chunk of 2x4 wall stud mess drywall corner bead here and just rip that off from the top plate. And you can see there's quite a few nails in that. And I've got a wire running through the center here. I'll have to figure out what that goes to here soon. And I got to remove the top plate as well. So I'm going to switch gears and go into the bathroom, and I'm going to measure 48 inches. I'm going to cut across at 48 inches high. So I run my level across, draw a line, and I'm going to use my oscillating tool to cut at 48 inches. The reason I'm cutting at 48 inches is because when I do my plumbing, I can come back with a piece of drywall that's going to be 48 inches tall and use one sheet just to cover the whole area. But I will need to remove this so that I can get access to the plumbing, which I'll have to move, considering removing the toilet over, adding a shower, and moving the vanity over as well. So as it turns out, the wire that's running through the wall here is a 3 conductor with a ground. It is for the smoke detectors. And there's one in the basement, one on this floor, and one upstairs, and they're all linked together. So I'll have to deal with that coming up here soon. So I'm going to remove the wall going into the living room, and I'm going to start out with cutting the baseboard just a little bit further than where the wall is going to be removed. And then I will just take the baseboard off and save it, and I could use this again, considering the wall is not going to be near as long as it is now. We're going to have a nice open floor plan once this wall and the wall in the kitchen gets removed. So we've determined that 35 inches is where we want to cut the wall back. So I've got it marked here at 35, and I'm going to use my level to draw a plumb line straight down from the 35 all the way down to the floor at 35 inches. And then I will score cut the drywall at the ceiling. And then I'm going to use the oscillating tool again. Love this tool. I'll use that to cut my plumb line that I drew. So I've already removed and unwired the thermostat. Once I get this cut, I'm going to go around to the other side of the living room, and I should be able to push on this drywall from the back side, and it'll pop the screws, the drywall screws out, and hopefully this will come off in one nice piece. It looks like it's pushing away from the studs here. Go back around the living room side, and I'll pull out on the drywall, and it comes out just like a door. It swivels right on the corner bead, and then I can pull that out and remove that. And you can see it's getting open now. It's getting a nice open area here. Got a lot of wires for the switch, so I'm going to take the pry bar here and remove the switch box, and I'll just nail it up here for the time being just to keep it out of the way. And you can see this wall's a little wobbly, so I'll have to shore that up. So I'm going to remove the block that was holding the thermostat in place, and I can reuse that. And then I can continue removing the studs from behind the drywall for the wall that's going to be removed. It's going to leave us with a real nice open floor plan, a big wide area. So I've got my wall mostly removed, so I'm going to take some of these boards that have the wires running through them and start cutting away the pieces so that I can get the wire out. And this is where my wall is going to go, so I'll go ahead and cut the base plate here, pry it up a little bit, and then I can use the reciprocating saw again to cut all the way through. And once I get it cut all the way through, I can remove the piece I don't need. I'll just tap that back down in place, and I'll pull my thermostat wire through into the basement, and I'll feed it through where I need it to go. You can see I have it covered with electrical tape to keep it from shorting out, and I'll drill a new hole right below where I want my thermostat to be. I put a little extension in there just so I could see it when I get down into the basement, and here's my new thermostat wire coming up from the basement in its new location. a little bit of extra. It's a little closer to the furnace, so that's a bonus. I'll have a little bit of extra wire. I can use my block over again and screw that in, and I'm going to make the hole a little bit bigger, make the wires easier to go through. And once I get that all the way through there, I can put my base plate back on for my thermostat, make sure it's nice and level, and screw that in securely. And then I can wire my base plate back up to the wires. I did take a picture of this before I took it apart, and it's a good idea to do that. This is pretty simple to wire up. It's pretty self-explanatory and shouldn't be that difficult, but just in case, I take a picture just to make sure. This one has 5 wires, and all of those wires are hooked up to the base. So again, not a bad idea to take a picture, so you'll have that for a future reference. This is a Nest thermostat, and it's real nice because the base plate just has a push button, and you slide the wire in and let go of the push button, and it'll clamp down on the wire. So no tools are needed to wire this one up. And once all the wires are hooked up, all I have to do is snap the thermostat into place and give it a little test here, and it looks like it's working just fine. So we're going to move on to the other side, and I'll put a little brace in here. I've got one cut here about 14.5 inches. I'm going to straddle between the 2 joists here, and I'll use some construction screws to hold it into place. That way I can use this brace to strengthen that wall that's going to stay there. A little piece of wall is going to stay, so I need to give it some kind of support. So I'll put a couple screws in here, and then I'm going to reach up into the top here and toenail the other side. It's really hard to see, but I'll toenail that into the other joist. Once I get that done, I can then secure my wall so there's no more wobbling of the wall. Now that I've got it secured, I'm going to cut it down to the size that I want. This is straight even with the cut in the drywall, right at 35 inches that we removed. So I'll cut the top plate off of the drywall and get that out of the way. And next I'm going to bring a 2x4, make my corner so it lines right up with the drywall. Should be level now. I'll check it and then start screwing it into the top. Just toenail a couple construction screws in here. If you got a nailer would work just as well. Sometimes you use a nailer. This time I have some screws with me, so I'm going to use the screws for this job. So we got a lot of demolition work done here on this part, and we're going to start removing the kitchen wall, and we'll have to figure out what we're going to do with the return vent that runs through the kitchen wall here. And you can see that's going to open it up all the way from the kitchen to the front of the house, but you can see this pocket right here is used as a return vent. So we're going to have to figure out how to reroute that. If you like this video, stop back for part 3. Make sure you hit that bell icon down below. And as always, thanks for watching.